Welcome to the podcast, Sister Wives, a red flag rewatch. This is a podcast for disenchanted fans of Sister Wives, fans who fell in love with the Brown family, watched their precious kids grow up, and became enchanted with all the love, only to be told it was all a lie. Nothing was as it seemed. We were bamboozled, fooled, duped, tricked, conned, swindled, hoodwinked. What did we miss? Where did it go wrong? Come help me find out as we watch from the beginning. Hey, welcome back. My name is Gertie Wobblecheeks, and my dog over here is Biscuit McDroolface. And today we're going to discuss Season 1, Episode 8, Sister Wives Special. NBC's Natalie Morales sits down with the Browns from TLC's smash hit Sister Wives for a candid discussion about love, marriage, jealousy, and what the future holds. So, it starts out, Cody is sitting with Christine and Meri, and Robyn is sitting behind them with Janelle, and they've got professional makeup going on. They are looking nice, professional makeup and hair. But the thing is they kind of look like pod people. They're just performing, just lots of smiling and laughing. Meri reminds me a lot of Barbara from Big Love. She's dressed that way. She's got that little talk and that little way of speaking. She's got a lot of first wife energy going on there. Natalie says, when Sister Wives premiered, America met the Browns. Cody has 3 wives, Meri, Janelle, and Christine, and fiancé Robyn, a plural family, changing the face of polygamy one episode at a time. She asks, how are you feeling, Cody, about putting yourself out there like this? Cody says the society was too secretive, and so I felt there was a need for transparency. This doesn't make me nervous, but America makes me nervous. And Natalie says, what do you mean by that? Cody said, America has a point of view that's already prejudiced against me. When I step forward, the stereotypes automatically get assigned. Maybe this guy's patriarchal. Maybe this guy's narcissistic, self-obsessed, and he loves having women worship him. And through the process of the show, I think you get to see me get schooled several times. I think it's very important that America see that I'm a man who's just well trained. And then everybody laughs. He says stereotypes get assigned. Oh, maybe this guy's patriarchal. Maybe this guy's narcissistic, self-obsessed, and he loves having women worship him. I think we got it right. That all seems right. But anyway, Natalie says, you learned your role, right? And Cody says, these women will not do what I tell them to do. It's never happened. Well, I've tried before, and I got the smack down. The only people I'm able to boss around at home are the kids, and that's just telling them to clean their rooms and doing their homework. And Natalie said it's true, they're not the typical family next door. Meri says when people find out about us and our lifestyle, everybody's shocked. Natalie says the Browns are fundamentalist Mormons who practice polygamy, which was disavowed more than a century ago by the mainstream Mormon church, known as the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Today is estimated there are more than 35,000 polygamous families in the U.S. Each week, the family invites America into their suburban Utah home, specifically designed where each wife has her own living quarters and her own bedroom. Right off the bat, this show sets the record straight about the sleeping arrangements. Then it goes into Meri talking about we don't go weird. And we've discussed her saying that. And we said she's going to keep saying it. Natalie says, watching the show, I think we can all relate up into the point where you then go off to the bedroom with one of the wives, and that's where I imagine it's very different. And Christine shuts her down and says, it's not things that we really want to talk about, honestly. I mean, it's very personal. It's a private part of our life, and we really don't want to go there. So she is going with that rule they had set up from the very beginning. We don't discuss finances and we don't discuss sex. So she shut her down there. And then Natalie says, well, can we make one thing clear? Then you with all these women, it's not just about sex. And Christine pipes up again. She's not letting Cody answer. She says it's about a family. It's about making our relationship work and our family work, and it's about love and communication and raising incredible kids. And Natalie says season 1 not only introduced us to Cody and the sister wives, it chronicled the courting and addition of the 4th wife, Robyn Sullivan. As Cody pursued her, the other wives struggled. And Cody says chicks don't understand that a guy can have 4 best friends. And Janelle says chicks. I mean, why does he say chicks? Why did he think that that's a good idea to say? But Cody says, it's very easy for me to look at Janelle and say, you're my best friend, I want to tell you everything. Wait, yeah, Christine, you're my best friend, I want to tell you everything. Same for Meri, you're my best friend. It goes all the way around. You know, Cody, he doesn't talk about his other wives to his other wives, but I think he talked about every single wife to every other single wife. Melanie from Notes to Self says that that's one of the things that polygamous men like to do, is they like to kind of pit the wives against each other. They don't want them uniting up against him, so he makes it to where they struggle to get his attention and get favor with him, so he kind of pits them against each other. And I believe that's exactly what he did. So when he says things like, they're all my best friends, well, he probably told all his best friends all of his business. Natalie says, while they can and do joke about their lifestyle, the pain in adding a new wife is very real. Meri says, this is a situation I've gone through before. This is the third time. Every time a new one comes along and I go through my insecurities and my jealousies, I work through them and we become a stronger family. And again, when she says things like, every time this happens, every time. Well, it only happened 16 years ago in a short period of time. I think this is a whole new thing because this happened over a short period of time, 16 years ago. Things have changed. Situations are different. And for her to be comparing this to that is different. They have a whole family dynamic that is a certain way. And if you remember, all three of them were married before they started having kids. So they have a set family that's a certain way. And so this situation is different. And I don't like when they keep saying that every time a new one comes along, I go through my insecurities. This is really the first time a new one has come along, because they already were one unit to begin with. That does bug me. Natalie says, sister wives do not shy away from exploring the natural conflicts that arise when a man has more than one wife. And in each show, Cody and the wives go to the couch where it all comes out. And Cody says, and this is a good point, he says, when you're on that couch, you're really listening. You get a triple whammy. You experience the feeling, and then a couple months later, you talk about the feeling, and then many months later, you see it again on TV, and you have to relive it and talk about it. So, yeah, I could kind of see where that would be an issue. Because if you mess up, you have to relive it over and over and over and over again. That could be a lot. And Robyn said, so we're so over certain episodes. And Kody says, yeah, we don't want to ever watch that again. Natalie says the family says that for now they work on staying positive and they're adjusting to all the attention. All of a sudden everybody knows you. Then Cody says, it's like standing out in a football field naked and everybody's in the grandstands watching you. You kind of have to decide if you're going to flex or if you're going to cover up and hide. And Natalie says, are you flexing? And Cody says, well, no, I covered up for a little bit. I was very embarrassed. No, he's been flexing this whole time. I don't believe that at all. He said he even had to tone it down for this show because he was flexing too much. I don't think he covered up and hid anything. And Natalie says, what are you most scared of about putting yourselves out there in this way? Janelle says, I worry about the children. So we've doubled our efforts to make sure that things are consistent and normal, that we do our normal family things just so that the fabric of their lives is not changed so dramatically by this experience. Natalie says by the end of the season there were 16 children, including the 3 kids that wife number 4, Robyn, brought from her marriage, and baby Truly born to wife number 3, Christine. And Cody says the kids are expressing a love for the show and the filming and the experience, and all of them have also expressed kind of a distaste for it. I don't think it would have mattered what the kids said. They would have done it anyway. At the end of the day, the show did turn out to be the best thing for them, even though it was a lot of drama through the whole thing, but it did get them out of the polygamy situation and gave them chances to go to college and get out in the world and see new things and do new things. The show was overall good for the kids, but I don't think the kids would have had a say if they all said, we're not doing this. It'd be like, too bad. Natalie says, Cody says that when it comes to his family, the reality runs far deeper than any televised image. You're sort of the moon and they rotate around you. Is that a good way to put it? And Cody says, well, that's very flattering for a big ego. And that's weird to say that he's the moon and they rotate around you, because the moon rotates around the earth and the earth rotates around the sun. Not much rotates around the moon. So that was odd. Natalie said, That's the image that we see. Kody said, but it's not. I do feel like in a way that the public has misunderstood that there's this cat fight, if you will, for my time, but that's not really there because all the relationships are being nurtured and the family is being nurtured. And he says there's this cat fight. So when you're talking about women struggling and trying to be equal in this relationship and you call it a cat fight, that's a little bit demeaning. Meri says we really need to have a lot of openness and honesty in a situation like this. Natalie says Meri is the original, the only one of Kody's 4 wives who is legally married to him. Meri says, I met Kody when I was 18. I was almost 19 and his sisters had introduced us. I knew he was the one and he knew I was the one. Meri and his sister had went to camp together and spent a lot of time, and Meri let the sister know that she really liked Kody. Natalie says Kody and Meri were young, but they knew from the beginning what kind of relationship they wanted. Meri says, we knew that we're going to enter the plural lifestyle. We just knew that what was going to happen for us. We knew that was going to be part of our life. And Natalie says, but as self-assured as Meri can be, there was also moments where she comes off as conflicted and vulnerable. Meri, as the one who started all this, the first, is it hard? I mean, you've had to welcome 3 into your life. Meri said it really depends on the day. I mean, there's been days that I've been like, I just can't see that today. I know you love her, but you guys have a great relationship and that's fine. But there are days it's like no big deal because we're all this big happy family. It doesn't bother me at all. But again, it just comes down to my own insecurities, where you are emotionally in your head that day. And Meri is a big proponent of any time these women have insecurities. She's into that polygamous propaganda that it's your insecurities that are causing the problems and all these negative thoughts you're having in your head are your own fault. You remember when Christine came to talk to Meri and she was laying up in the bed because she had hurt her knee skin, and Christine was like, I'm really struggling. I don't know what to do. I can't. This is too much. And Meri says, well, you got to work on yourself. And that's what she tells them every single time anybody asks her for advice or she doesn't feel good about something. She goes, well, I got to work on myself. You know, maybe it's somebody else's fault. And it's not always your fault. And her saying that is just that polygamous propaganda that she grew up with. Natalie says, a fragile moment for Meri this season, her 20th anniversary dinner with Kody. He's about to take on wife number 4, Robyn, and while Meri is the one who initiated the matchup, the new relationship brings up insecurities, which she confides in Kody. And you remember when Meri said in the tell-all, and she was gaslighting us and saying, I don't know where y'all got the idea that I introduced Robyn to Kody. I didn't introduce Robyn to Kody. And it says over and over and over in this tell-all that Meri initiated the matchup. Natalie says, we saw the dinner and obviously a big celebration, but also you were going through some pretty difficult times dealing with issues of jealousy. Meri says, we just have ups and downs, and at that time we were going through a tough spot, and then add Robyn on top of that. Robyn, sorry. She just realized that she mentioned that Robyn was the problem. She says, Robyn, sorry, the situation, you know, and the insecurities that I was already having because of our relationship just made it really magnified it. Kody says, every couple in America who has made a marriage last, I believe, has been at that place. Most of the time you're in love. Most of the time you're looking at each other and you're saying, hey, I love you and I like our life together. Just because something's a little kinked here, a lot of the couples never even discuss those issues. We've actually said after 20 years, I love you and I'm committed and I choose to stay. Natalie says, here we go again. Another tough issue Meri faced in Sister Wives was fertility. Janelle, wife number 2, and Christine, wife number 3, have 6 children apiece. Meri has 1. Several years ago, Meri got pregnant for the second time and then suffered a miscarriage. All doctors could tell her was that she had unexplained infertility. In a trip to Mexico to celebrate their anniversary, Kody suggests trying again. It's a very difficult conversation. I know, Meri, for you because you had a painful miscarriage. You don't feel, though, that you need to expand your family anymore. Meri says, and I didn't realize this, but she says, I've done a lot of fertility treatments before. So she's done this before. Your emotions are just like a roller coaster. Hope, 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 just to be thrown down again. You know, I'm getting older, and I just feel like if it were to happen again on its own, that would be awesome. And that is very legitimate. If she has already tried before and she got her hopes up and they just keep getting dashed time and time again, we need to just drop this. Kody needs to just drop this because this is a lot of emotional trauma to get your hopes up that high just to have them dashed, and the chances of it being successful is very small. Let's just stop. There's no reason to keep putting this poor girl through this, but Cody don't care about that. Christine says Meri only having one child is unfortunate. I'm hoping that because we have kids too, that Meri is more complete. I know that it's hard, and I make sure when I tell everybody that I'm expecting, I usually have told Meri first, just so she knows, so she can have her private time, because it is hard. And Natalie says Meri knew from day one what she was getting herself into. 20 years later, she says she wouldn't change a thing about her life. But that said, in Sister Wives, she has acknowledged just how hard that life can be. And Natalie says, do you sometimes think about leaving? Meri says there was a time that he and I were struggling so much that I knew I wouldn't leave because I do have commitment and he and I love each other, and I wouldn't. But there are times that I thought, I don't want to deal with the stress. So she has kind of backtracked a little bit, because in the episode where she was talking about wanting to leave, she never mentioned I knew I wouldn't leave. Now she's just trying to cover up for the fact that she said that she wanted to leave. So now she's saying I knew I wouldn't leave. And Natalie says each sister wife brings something different to the table. Janelle is the level-headed one, the thinker, the worker. And Janelle says, I've always been a career person. I've always worked. I would prefer to be working rather than be home with the kids, because in a family this big, one breadwinner is not enough. And I just want to tell y'all, Janelle is looking gorgeous in this. I mean, all of them look good, but Janelle, she is very pretty. And when I look at her, I think of like movie star gorgeous. She is so pretty. I mean, they really did a number on her. They've straightened her hair and did her makeup. Natalie says, good deal. Janelle is the only one of Cody's wives who did not grow up in the faith. She never sought out the polygamous lifestyle. Instead, it found her in the most unusual way. Before Janelle and Meri were sister wives, they were sisters-in-law. And I remember finding out about this and thinking it was so scandalous. I realized that they were only together for like 6 months, and then they were divorced within a year. She says, at 19, I did marry Meri's brother. We were young. It was very short-lived. And Natalie said, the revelation was a shock to fans. And Janelle says, it's funny, everyone's making such a big deal about it, because it's like, who talks about their failed marriages? And Natalie says, about 2 years after her divorce from Meri's brother, Janelle realized she was in love with Cody. And Janelle says, I'm like, wow, he's a really great guy. He's the best guy I know. And then the faith came along, and I embraced the faith. And then it was just sort of natural. I wanted to marry the best guy I know. And Janelle is a very natural nature person. And I think she thought it was going to be like this big commune where they would all just take care of each other. And that's why she liked the faith so much. Natalie says, Janelle and Cody are the only two adults in the family 21 who hold down full-time jobs, which begs a couple of obvious questions in today's economy. Let's talk about finances, because a lot of people are also curious about that. With your big house that we see and driving sporty cars, and you all seem to be very financially set, how is it? How do you get the money? They all laugh, because this is just outrageous. They are not very financially set. In fact, they are struggling. Cody says the reality is, it's just like anybody else, we're struggling to make ends meet. Christine says it takes everything we've got like everyone else. He starts to stumble because he realizes that maybe he shouldn't have got this car. This car was a very bad idea. This is what he says. Yeah, we bought this sports car it's 10 years old, and we bought it in a good year, and it was 8 years old, or 5 years. No, 7 years old when we bought it. And that's exactly what he says. He is just stumbling and stuttering because he knows. We judged him immediately for that, because that was stupid. It was stupid. And Christine says in her new book that they bought it with TLC money, and they called it his dating car. And he probably thought at the time that it was a good idea. The way he just said that whole sentence, he knows. Janelle says it's a struggle. I mean, it is a struggle. There's never enough money, it seems like, but somehow we always make it through. We work together. We pool our time, our resources. I mean, Christine cooks at home. We buy in bulk. We clip coupons. We buy beef by the half instead of the pound. She tapes her window shut because her door is broken. She drives around crappy cars. Everybody drives around crappy cars. Natalie says another question a lot of people have is health insurance, how that works for the family. How are you covered? Cody says, well, actually my employer is great. They've been very supportive. When I first was employed with them, I was very concerned about potential discrimination from the lifestyle, and so I didn't put all my children on our insurance. And this has got to be the truth. I think he only put Leon on his insurance because he was married to Meri and they were legally married. I think Janelle having her own job, she put her kids on her insurance. And I think Christine was on government aid that covered all the kids, and she got food stamps for all of the kids. I have this friend that works for WIC, Women and Children Government Assistant Program, and she says in their pantry are these name brand large bulk things that come from WIC. So she was on government assistance. She didn't have the father on her taxes or anything. She filed separately, and she was just a single mother. So I think the health insurance wasn't the issue, because here they launch into how Madison had to have emergency surgery, and it was because Janelle had changed jobs and there was a gap and it hadn't picked up yet. I think that's the only reason they had a problem with that, was because there was that gap in changing jobs, and Madison got sick during that. So I don't think that Cody put his kids on the insurance at all. I think he just put Leon on there because he's married to Meri. So that was officially his child. Natalie says that turned out to be problematic when the teenage daughter Madison had to have an emergency appendectomy. The family is still paying that one off. Cody says Janelle had just switched jobs, so her insurance wasn't covering her, and it cost us a year's wages. Janelle says, which I'm still making payments on. Yeah, we're the queens of making payments. I believe that. So that experience taught me, I hope, never to make another decision in fear again, which makes no sense because that wasn't really a decision. Natalie says, out of all the sister wives, Janelle seemed to be the least vocal about Cody's courtship of Robyn and the possibility of a new fourth wife. But that doesn't mean she's immune to the same kind of emotions her sister wife Meri feels. Janelle says, I had a few weeks where I was like so mad at Cody. I didn't want to talk to him. Cody, of course, said all the right things to me and melted me. Efficient and level-headed as Janelle is, all the right things was probably like, if we go through this, this is what TLC is going to pay us. And then maybe you won't have to work so hard and we won't be struggling. So Cody, of course, said all the right things and melted me. So that probably was what melted her. Janelle says, I think as far as the jealousy, we all experience it in different ways, but I was already very secure in who I was. I'm also a little bit closer to the cuff than Meri and Christine. I'm more emotions, I'm more logical, it's true. So, I had those issues, but I was much more secure about myself. I was pretty secure about who I was long before Robyn. Robyn kind of came and did the fruit basket upset for us. And I've always gotten the impression that Janelle living out of that house, I think she came back from Wyoming where they had separated for a while. I think she came back because it made more sense in the long run for the kids to be with their brothers and sisters and for somebody to watch her kids. She's very, very logical. So I think that's why she wasn't that upset about Robyn, was because she is more in terms of being practical and doing the right thing and getting her kids taken care of. Like, she has her priorities and it's her kids, and this is how she's getting her kids taken care of. So I think that's why she wasn't that upset about Robyn. Teen says, I'm the third wife in the family. Now, no one would dispute this stay-at-home mom is outspoken and dominant and not even close to shy. Who do you think is enjoying the media attention most of all? And Cody points to Christine. And Christine says, yeah, I was going to say me. But that she was in that group, Principal Voices. Their primary goal was to put out a good look for polygamous relationships. They were just going around trying to advocate for polygamy and talk about how it wasn't as bad as it seemed. This is how the show came to be. It's because they were approached by a production company. And at one point, BBC had done a documentary on them. I've been looking for that, and I can't seem to find it. But they did write an article, and I read the article. And they were going to do something, and that kind of fell through. And then they came around to them, and Cody said, if that ever comes up again, we need to jump on that. We need to do it. And so this opportunity came around. So Christine's kind of the one that started it all, with her being in that group and her advocating for polygamy. She's the one that got them spotted and where they got noticed. She says in her new book that she had a lot of training with this Principal Voices on how to talk to people and how to tell her story and to be friendly and engaging. And I think this is why she likes the attention, because she's had a lot of training in this and she likes it. And Natalie says, Christine knew what she wanted and has gotten it. Not only did she aspire to be in a polygamous marriage, incredibly, she knew exactly where she wanted to be in the pecking order. And it tells the story again how she didn't want to be the first wife. She didn't want to be the second wife. She wanted to be the third wife. She thought it would be less stressful. Natalie says one of the high points of the Sister Wife seasons revolved around the birth of Christine and Cody's sixth child, a girl they named Truly. Christine invited the cameras and her oldest daughter, Aspen, into the delivery room. We sat down with all the other sister wives and Cody to watch this emotional moment. And it shows the birth of Truly. After they quit playing it, everybody's just thinks it's great. And Robyn's back there with cry number 8. Cry number 8. 8 is in the books. Natalie says another dramatic high point in the season was Cody and Robyn's imminent wedding. Even though third wife Christine grew up in a polygamous family, she struggled emotionally over the addition of a fourth wife. Christine said, I never understood what Meri or Janelle had gone through. I didn't get it. I'm like, how can you be jealous? How can you be insecure? Because I never was. It wasn't an issue for me. So what were you feeling? I was feeling insecure. I was feeling replaced. I mean, I was. I know. It's just one of those stupid things. Robyn says, oh my God, I'm sorry. So she's interrupting Christine, talking about, oh. Natalie says all the stresses the sister wives felt over Cody's new relationship came to a head near the end of the season. What should have been a bonding session in a bridal dress shop turned tense when the first 3 sister wives learned Cody went to the shop with Robyn without them. And then it shows the clip where Christine got up and stormed off. And Natalie said, this is one of those cringeworthy moments where I think everyone experienced. And Christine said, I walked out. Like she's all ashamed. She should have walked out. She should have walked out. And she says, no, it wasn't the dress. I had a lot of jealousy feelings throughout their courtship. I was feeling abandoned. I was feeling like I wasn't special. And when I found out about that, it was just like, oh, you're kidding. You know, I was just starting to feel okay. And here's another thing that shows that your relationship with Robyn was more than your relationship with me. And that's true. Another thing that shows your relationship with Robyn was more important than your relationship with me. And we discussed this in the last episode. The fact that they picked the dress, it wasn't about the dress. And even the cake, it wasn't about the cake. It was the fact that Cody and Robyn have this dynamic where they lie together. They lie to the others. And together they have these goals. And together they get things done despite the wives. And when he says, I picked the dress, the wives see this dynamic and see what this means. And that's why they're upset. Because they're realizing that Robyn has this hold over him now to get him to lie. That she was very comfortable just letting it be, didn't feel bad about it at all. And that's why Christine got upset. I don't blame her at all, because it's true. It was just one more thing that shows your relationship with Robyn was more important than your relationship with me. It's more important than Meri. It's more important than Janelle. It's more important than Christine. It's more important than those OG 13 kids. More important than all of them. And then it goes on to Robyn. Natalie says Robyn was 30 years old when Cody was courting her. Robyn says that Cody has 4 trophy wives. Honestly, each one of us is special and has a different element of a woman that any guy would be lucky to have in his life, honestly. When she says Cody has 4 trophy wives. I wonder how she felt about Christine saying she was a trophy wife. Because Melanie from Notes to Self says that's kind of snarky thing to say in polygamy. I wonder how Robyn felt about Christine saying that. And Natalie says the divorced mother of 3, Robyn, sweet and emotional, knew exactly what she wanted in a husband and a marriage. And she said to Robyn, why did you choose him? And Robyn says, because I had a list of things I wanted in a potential mate, and Cody meets them all. Number 1. Number 2, I knew I wanted to live this way. I wanted this experience, and I know and believe that this experience continues, that I will learn how to be more selfless and learning how to look to others and say, what do you need as well? Natalie says Cody proposed, and it became official. After 16 years, the family was adding another wife. And she says, why was there such a big gap? It took you 16 years before you got back out there. Cody says, it's not like a wife hunt. I mean, heaven forbid. It's not like a cattle call. Meri says, it's just a situation when the right person comes along at the right time. Natalie says Cody and Robyn had a matchmaker Here it is. Here it is. Natalie says, Cody and Robyn had a matchmaker, first wife, Meri. She and Cody met Robyn at a party. The two women clicked, and Meri suggested to Cody that Robyn may be the sister wife material. Cody wasn't so sure. So when Meri gaslights us in the last tell-all and says, I don't know where y'all got the idea that I introduced him. I did not introduce Robyn to Cody. It's in the transcript. Right here. Right here. Natalie says Cody and Robyn had a matchmaker, first wife, Meri. Think you gonna gaslight me? I'm not stupid. We're not stupid. Good God. Anyway, Cody says, initially I had some personal reservations for whatever reason. I was actually kind of shuddered. I had an ick factor, but that's just what it was. And everybody's horrified that he said he had an ick factor with Robyn. But we know now that initially he had a lightning bolt to the loins. It didn't have anything to do with having an ick factor. There was no ickiness involved. Why did he say that? I'm wondering if Robyn didn't tell him to say that. She quickly defends him. And she says, because I was divorced with kids, and that's a lot. And I think this is just another way for them to cover up how they met by him saying he had an ick factor. No, they didn't have an ick factor. They met in church and couldn't look away from each other. How is that icky? We are not stupid. We are not. I'm not. You're not. Nobody's stupid. Anyway, Natalie says, it's okay. What did you mean by that? I'm sure Robyn is grimacing a little bit. And Janelle says, I want you to remember there's a lot of divorced people in this world. And that was kind of funny because she is one. She's a divorced person. Robyn said, okay, this is the situation. When you marry someone who has children, who has a divorce, there is this past, this history. There are these children from another spouse, and you have to deal with all that. There's a lot of work, and he already has a lot of work. And so she's defending Cody because they're trying to get their story straight. They don't want to talk about the lightning bolt right now. Had they mentioned the lightning bolt right here, I wonder what would have been said. I was up at that church where it's like Tinder for polygamists, and we were looking around for each other, and our eyes met. Natalie says Cody, Meri, Janelle, and Christine have been together for 16 years, and during that time had 13 children. Sharing Cody's time and attention with the new girl was tough for the sister wives. Robyn struggled with it well, so you felt a lot this last season that you were pulling them apart. And Robyn says, I'm always bawling on set, because she's going to start crying. Janelle says, I know it's like this big joke. Robyn's going to cry again. I love Janelle. Have I told you I love Janelle? I love Janelle. Well, I don't know. I'll get it all out. But no, it was difficult to me because I know each of them was struggling in their own way, and I hate hurting people. Cry number 9. Write that down. Cry number 9. Because she hates hurting people. I was listening to a Sister Wives professor, and he thinks that what triggers her is when she feels defensive. If she feels defensive, like she has to defend herself because she looks bad, her immediate reaction is to start crying. And that's how she gets people to back off. And after he said that, I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. She's crying because she feels defensive. Notice every time she cries, it's because she's trying to defend herself. And that way people have to apologize to her and she's off the hook. Which said, the next words out of anybody's mouth is, Christine, sorry, sweetie, I wanted you. And so she got what she wanted out of that. And Robyn says it was a pretty established dynamic. Yeah, they were, and they were really established. And I came in and I shook it all up. And it was definitely something that was hard for me to see them go through. There was time when I go home, am I really doing the right thing by doing this? Because I don't like hurting people. It's such a crazy thing because they're sharing one of their most precious people in their lives, their husband, with me. And yeah, it's hurting them at the same time. It's very, very special kind of love from these girls. Cody says there was one point when Robyn was saying to me, I don't want to do anything that's going to hurt their feelings. And I'm like, you're not going to be able to help that. I knew this was going to be a challenge when Robyn realized that Christine's heart would break over this. He knew Christine's heart would break over this issue, but he didn't seem to care. And Robyn says, I'm questioning, going, do I, Heavenly Father, do I still do this? Yeah, it means I'm hurting him. And Cody says it makes you check your faith. Natalie says, Robyn and Cody married last May. The reception was featured in the season finale. Despite the jealousies and insecurities, all of the wives maintain that their family is better as a result. Christine says, for a year, when Cody started dating Robyn, Cody had a lot of communication skills and a lot of words, a new vocabulary for sure that completely was wonderful for me, and he started changing and evolving. And Robyn brought a new strength to our family. She brought a coolness to our family, where our teenagers are coming over to my closet and picking out clothes. When they say things that Robyn taught Kody how to communicate, I think she taught him how to manipulate and how to say the right words and what to do and what to say. And so when he's changing and evolving, it's not necessarily for the best. Natalie says, but Robyn says they're still getting used to the new normal. Robyn says, so it's been a little bit of an adjustment. Some days I have to go home and give them some time. Natalie says during the courtship, Kody moved Robyn and her kids into a house down the block with living space at the Brown home because the Brown home was maxed out. Robyn, Aurora, and Brianna and Dayton remain there. The kids, she says, are thriving among their 13 step-siblings. For her 2 daughters, it means an instant group of playmates. And so they've told Natalie that Robyn moved in down the block because the Brown home was maxed out. And I have told you in recent episodes, after looking at the layout of the house, she could have easily moved in. But that meant that her kids would have had to share bedrooms with other kids. I spent a lot of time looking at that layout and looking at the ages of the children and how to spread them out evenly, and it actually would have been a better situation. But the thing about the Brown house is it's very separate. Everybody keeps everything separate. Peyton had his own room because the rest of Christine's kids were girls. Now, why would Peyton have his own room when Janelle has so many kids? Why didn't Peyton go share a room with them and the girls spread out a little bit? But they had to keep everything separate. That's why I think Robyn didn't move in, was because they wanted everything separate. And if they truly wanted to be one whole family, she would have moved in and she would have integrated her kids with the other kids. Robyn didn't want that. The wives didn't want that. Nobody wanted that. So when Robyn says that they never accepted my kids, it was partially her fault. Robyn says Brianna loves it and Aurora loves it like crazy. The little girls, I thought it was like magic. Like we had all these little girls around the same age and they all played together really well. So she should have moved in that house and moved Brianna and Aurora right in with those girls. And they could have grew up together and gotten along just fine because they were all the same age. Natalie says, but the biggest surprise is how well her son has adjusted. Dayton has Asperger's, a form of autism. Robyn says he's got all these boys around his same age, so that he's got Peyton and Garrison and Gabe, and they all kind of hang out together and do stuff together, and they're really great with him. And Kody says, Robyn's kids are my kids. I'm not going to take anything away from their father. One more time. Kody says, Robyn's kids are my kids. I'm not going to take anything away from their father. They just get 2 dads like the rest of the kids get 4 moms. And this is the only time they mention the father in here. We know now. Remember when Dayton messed up his eye and they lied about that and said that he was at a friend's house, when really Kody was watching him and they were riding 4-wheelers and Dayton ran into a barbed wire fence. He actually did some damage. He had a skin flap where his skin got pulled back, and Hunter is the one who helped him. And they say that he had quite the medical bills. This is when they were in Vegas. I don't know if they had insurance at that point or not. But they were saying that the father, David is the father, was partially responsible for the medical bills because it's his child too, and that was part of the agreement. And he couldn't afford it. He couldn't afford it at all. And there's these text messages where Robyn's like, don't talk to him about how it happened. And they're saying, well, you owe us so many thousands of dollars for the medical bills. And one of the reasons he agreed to sign over his custody rights was so they would dismiss those medical bill charges. And so when he says, I'm not going to take anything away from their father, he took everything away from their father. He took it all. And one Redditor said that Robyn's name in David's phone is Reality B. So they do not get along. But anyway, Natalie says there are 4 now, but will Brown family ever be welcome a 5th? Do you think you're the last wife? Robyn says, it's funny, it gets brought up a lot. Kody says, I'm done. But honestly, I'm glad they didn't say that to Christine. I'm glad they didn't say this is the last wife, so you never know what's going to happen. Natalie says, by now you know a lot about Meri, Janelle, Christine, and Robyn. After all, the show is called Sister Wives, but at the center is the husband, Kody. Do we see the real Kody Brown? And Kody says, well, I feel like I am much more dramatic than this show has allowed me to be, which I believe that. I had to tone it down a lot. So I wonder if they had let him be his true self, what that would have looked like. Natalie says, are you a little bit of that playboy, though, that we see? And Kody says, not a playboy. I'm actually more like a party boy with my 4 girls. I just want to go have a good time, have a good life, and I want the experience to be quality. Natalie says, is there anything you feel like we have misunderstood in getting to know you? And Cody says, I almost feel like I'm the enigma. Nobody gets it. Nobody gets me. And she asks Meri, were you fired because of the show? And Meri says, I was fired because of the show. In my lifestyle, it was really hard to come to terms. But it is what it is. I mean, it was just a few weeks ago, and it's still really rough for me. It was a job that I love. And Natalie says, do you have any regrets for doing this? And she says, no. That's the thing about Meri. She was let go, but she was working with at-risk youth. She was working with children. And so you go on this show, you're admitting to committing a felony. So what company is going to allow a person to work with children that's potentially committing a felony? It's not safe. Of course they fired her. Of course. You know? It's not a good look that you knew that this was going on, that she was breaking the law, and you still let them come in and take care of kids. Yeah, she was let go. Natalie said, it is not surprising they have moments of doubt. The show sparked an investigation into the family by the Lehigh, Utah police. And they interviewed the police, and the police say, right now we're looking at the bigamy aspect of it as the investigation goes on. We'll see where it goes from there. Natalie says more than a century ago, polygamy was outlawed in Utah, and while Cody is only legally married to Meri, a person can be found guilty through cohabitation, not just legal marriage contracts. The Utah County Attorney's Office to determine whether or not they will prosecute polygamy. Cases between consenting adults are rarely pursued because there's 38,000 known polygamists in Utah. How could they pursue that? I mean, what are they going to do with all them kids if they take them away? Where are you going to put all them kids? They're not going to pursue it. But then again, polygamous relationships are not usually so publicly broadcast either. And so they're upset because they're being investigated. But that, at the end of the day, that's all that happened. They were being investigated. So what that means is they were just trying to make sure that nothing was happening that could be dangerous to any of the kids or the women. And I think once they realized that the kids were okay and the women were safe, they wouldn't have done anything further. I don't think there was any real threat. I don't think they would have busted up in that house and arrested Cody like they love to talk about. I think that was all dramatic. So, and it's just like Meri getting fired. You're putting this in the face of people and forcing them to take action. Whereas before they would look the other way, but now you're just putting it in everybody's face. You're put on national TV. And so now they have to say, yeah, we're investigating it. We're looking into it, because that's the right thing to do. I mean, what were they going to say? Yeah, we don't care. They wouldn't have said that on TV. They said, yeah, we're looking into it. What they're doing could be illegal. We're looking into it. But that's all they did, was look into it. They didn't do anything else. So now they got this lawyer. And Natalie says, where do things stand legally? And Cody says, we're not going to talk. We're going to defer to our attorney. And Janelle says, we do hope that, we chose this family, and we hope that we get to have the family we chose. And Christine says, and we never asked the state of Utah to recognize our marriages. We never asked for that. And I think she's saying that Cody's only legally married to Meri. He's not legally married to more than one wife. And Natalie says, up to this point, though the state of Utah hasn't had to deal with it being so publicly out there, is that a concern for you all? Cody says, I can't speak to that. Robyn says, you just want to show who our family is and that all we're trying to do here, that's it. And we did not do this as a way to stick our tongues out or be disrespectful. No disrespect. We'd rather just defer to the lawyer at this point. Natalie says their attorney is Jonathan Turley. The attorney says there's no evidence of abuse or crimes. They are as they appear. They're a good and happy family. They may not be the family that you and I would choose, but there serves little purpose to shatter that family and to prosecute them simply because they're on TV. If you prosecute the Browns, you really have to prosecute thousands of polygamous families. And that's it. And he's telling the truth. That's it. It's not going to go anywhere. No, they don't have the resources to deal with this. And Natalie says, in the meantime, the family says fan reaction has made the transition from obscurity to celebrity a little easier. Robyn says, we feel so loyal to these people who watch. She says, we feel so loyal to these people we watch. Have you seen the new, they're discussing the new season, and every one of the people, Meri, Christine, Janelle, Cody, they're all bubbly and talking about how great the next season's going to be. And Robyn says, yeah, there's going to be changes. And Christine's like, yeah, it's going to be, everybody is just hyping it up. And they go back to Robyn. She's like, yeah, things are going to change. And she is so flat. She is just dead. And so when she says stuff like, we feel so loyal to these people who watch, that just went by the wayside. She don't care about that anymore. She don't care. She is only phoning it in at this point. She's just upset that she has to come pick up her paycheck. Why don't we just mail it to her? Because she don't want to do all this. And she says, I tell them, I feel like you're so great. Thanks for watching. They're like, no, you're great. And I say, no, you're great. And everybody laughs. Natalie says, accommodating 4 wives and 16 kids is one thing, but dealing with the tabloids and gossip sites is something else. Cody says, what frustrates me is how the truth gets killed by some of it. We love it. We read the tabloids to find out stuff we never knew about ourselves. And Meri says, we found out the other day that I was leaving Cody. And Natalie says, so that's not true? And Cody says, depending on which week you read the tabloid, it's a different story. It's a different wife leaving. And Natalie says, which begs the questions that both fan and detractors have debated. Could the wives leave if they wanted to? And if they did, would they lose custody of their kids? I don't know the rules on showing actual video scenes, but I've seen tons of other podcasters do it. So I'm going to play you him actually saying what he says next. Just so I would have the video so I can play it for future episodes of my podcast when he goes directly against the next thing that he's saying. So I'm going to play that now. Then,
if they wanted to leave, they'd absolutely be free in that.
And you all have that choice.
Right. If any one of them chose to leave, they would get the children. I would just work double time and do all I could to actually make it. It'd be like, hey, if you're going to take the kids, can you move in the house next to us, and I'll pay you more. I'll buy the house. I'll do whatever. I'll work extra time. I'll do whatever it takes to make this.
For the kids
to keep it for the sake of the kids being close. Whatever it takes.
Meri says, but then in the end, it's a matter of choice, and none of us are choosing that. And all the wives say, we're not leaving. We're not leaving. We're not leaving. Natalie says, 1 husband, 2 houses, 4 wives, 16 children, and millions of viewers. No matter how you add it up, sister wives put the Brown family on the cultural radar. Where do they go from here remains to be seen. I did leave a lot out because it's just repeating stuff that we had already seen and already talked about, because that's a lot of what these tell-alls do is they replay scenes. So that was the end of that episode. So we're on to the end of my podcast where I talk about my tell-all question. And we just heard evidence of what Cody had to say would happen if a wife wanted to leave. So we're going to fast forward it to now, and we're going to ask Cody this question now. When Christine left, what happened to you buying a house and working double time to see the kids? Your first thoughts and words were that her future new boyfriend might get your money, and then you wanted a portion of the proceeds when she did sell the house. And you made the comment, this is my house. Even though we all know your name was not on the house. And the only reason your name was not on the house is because you wanted to get a house with Robyn and you couldn't because your name was on too much other stuff. So you told Christine that you wanted her to have an asset and to please take his name off. And she initially didn't want him to because she wanted to own a house with you. So it kind of hurt her feelings, but I am so glad she did. So when she sold the house, he still said a portion of that should come back to us, even though it was her house and she was taking care of it. And when that didn't work out, you talked her out of Coyote Pass. So she gave up her portion directly to him, not to Janelle and Meri. So he was okay with that then. Then you went and saw Truly all of 5 times in an entire year after she left. And when she came to visit you, you never had a good spot for her to sleep in. She said she felt like an outsider when she came to your house. What happened to working double time to see your kids? What happened to that? I think at some point you had that thought and you wanted that and you just totally lost it. Like it is just gone. So the words you said in this tell-all, it was all a lie. All a lie. We would like for you to admit that. What happened to you working double time to see your kids? That's it for today. If you like my podcast, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to reach me, you can always reach me at redflagrewatch@gmail.com. Thank you for joining me today. See you next time. I was going to try an almond diet, but that's just nuts. I was going to try an almond diet, but that's just nuts. Okay, I'm going to do one more. I was going to tell a joke about layoffs, but none of them worked. Okay, one more. What's the hardest tea to swallow? Reality. What's the hardest tea to swallow? Reality. All right. Thank you for joining me. See you later.